It's the last part, the culmination of our discussion throughout everything, throughout the whole scope of biochemistry, because this is where a lot of processes that enables preservation or perhaps prolongation and sustaining of life happens. So metabolism is defined as the biochemical basis of all life processes, especially humans. So this is specific for us humans. So this is a simplified diagram showing how the different biomolecules we obtain from food particularly or from supplements. So we have carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, nucleoproteins, including vitamins and minerals that enter the body by consumption. And then these different types of biomolecules provide energy that forms ATP or adenosine triphosphate, which is actually the body's energy currency. So this is somewhat being exchanged by your cells in order to proceed or for these proceed to the different cycles or processes involved, the different types of metabolic cycles. Okay. And then the ultimate goal is, aside from providing the body the energy, so it releases heat and it eliminates chemical waste that are not really of use to the body, especially carbon dioxide and then nitrogen in the form of ammonia, for instance, and even excess water. So this map shows all of the metabolic pathways of humans, and you may zoom in to the file. You will see that there are different color coding schemes showing the different biomolecular metabolic pathway. So notable here, this portion here is the red portion is carbohydrates, and then whenever you see the circle below the carbohydrate metabolic pathway, so that is the Krebs cycle or citric acid cycle. And then for the rest, so for the light green, that's lipids. And then you also have protein metabolism. You even have uh, vitamins and minerals included. And in each of the pathways, so there are different arrows. So it's actually complex because of the nature of each of the biomolecules, versatile or ability to be either synthesized or broken down into its basic unit. So that's basically why metabolism is also defined as the sum total or the total of all biochemical reactions that take place in an organism. Not only humans, even animals and plants have metabolism. And then these are series of chemical reactions that occur in a living organism to sustain life. And by etymology, it is derived from the Greek word metabole, meaning to change. Because you're changing from the food that you eat into the sugar, the monosaccharide that you need for powering the or powering the body, or the sugar that is needed in the bloodstream, or the sugar that is needed to be stored in your musculoskeletal tissue and your liver, and then the food that you eat containing lipids, so it becomes the fatty acids you need for development, formation of different organs, and then the proteins you need to be able to obtain the amino acids. That's why metabolism, basically it means change. Major functions include, so first off, storage. So from your food, so it is being digested and broken down into their basic units. And then that basic unit is then being used for cellular level, cellular processes. Another function, you transform molecules as a component of biomolecules. So basically carbs, proteins, lipids, and nucleic acids have their different forms and they exist in the body. They're usually being interconverted from one form to another. Then eliminating byproducts such as nitrogenous wastes. All in all, to sustain life, para dili ka mamatay. Factors that affect metabolism include number one, age. So as we age or grow older, the metabolic rate of our body also will vary. So usually it will decline as we grow older or when we age. Specific range. When you have sex, so whether you're female or male, biologically, so it also affects how your body processes fat and your muscles. Activity level, how physically fit or how are you inclined in different activities that can either improve your metabolism. Fuel consumption, this refers to the moderation of food. So what kind of food, how frequent do you eat those types of food, eh, which in turn affects your vitals. So blood pressure, sugar level, hydration, lean body mass. So are you mostly made of fat? So you have your BMI. Okay, so the index usually used to determine whether you need to slow down in fat gaining food or increase your activity, maybe a change in your lifestyle. And last but not the least, so inherent metabolic rate or your genes. So is your family having traits that show the same characteristics as you? Which is the dominant trait, which is the recessive. So in other words, if your parents tend to have, say, slim abdominal area, and then you probably would have that trait also. Now, metabolism is a sum total, and it is a combination of two processes or specific processes, particularly catabolism and anabolism. So, catabolism is breakdown. So, cat usually one way to remember is C is to cut, catabolism, breakdown of nutrients to obtain the energy that you need, and it is considered an oxidative process and it releases energy, so exergonic process. For anabolism, A for assemble, so it refers to the synthesis of biomolecules from simpler compounds. So it is the opposite, catabolism, not really opposite, but rather reverse. And then it is a reductive process and it needs energy. So it consumes energy, an endergonic process. And these two happen simultaneously. So these two should occur together, simultaneously rather. So, aside from anabolism and catabolism occurring, one important molecule that we have to consider would be the energy currency of the cell. So, which is your adenosine triphosphate. So, from our previous discussion, so adenosine triphosphate is a nucleotide where you have your nitrogenous base, adenosine, your sugar, so adenine and ribose, so adenosine, and then it has three phosphate groups attached to it. And it provides readily releasable energy in the bond between the second and third phosphate groups. That's why later you will encounter conversion of ADP or adenosine diphosphate to ATP or adenosine triphosphate because of the ability to easily break bond of the second and the third phosphate groups. So this happens through hydrolysis. And it's really important because it serves a broad range of cell functions, which include signaling, DNA, RNA synthesis, so your nucleoproteins, molecular machines, basically your cell. So they build or regenerate damaged tissue, and of course, for storage of energy, so that your body will not run out of energy in case it demands. So when your body's in distress or when you cannot have access to food right away, so ATP is essential for that purpose. So aside from the energy currency, you also need your coenzymes, and there are two significant coenzymes involved in most of the redox reactions in metabolism. So one would be NAD or nicotine adenine dinucleotide, and the other one is FAD or flavine adenine dinucleotide. So most metabolic oxidations, although the term is oxidation, but in representation it is more of dehydrogenation, meaning to say you don't look at the number of oxygen present in the compound, but rather you look at the number of hydrogens for you to determine whether it is oxidation, metabolic oxidation, or reduction. Now, these two coenzymes act as universal electron carrier in the cell. So they transport electrons from site of catabolism to the electron transport chain. Basically, NAD and FAD accompany the redox reactions involved in metabolism. Aside from coenzymes, you also have hormones that can aid or can regulate metabolic processes, such as insulin and glucagon. So as soon as they are released from the pancreas, so they signal the liver either to store glucose as glycogen or synthesize glucose from glycogen. So glucagon is the one responsible to stimulate glycogen breakdown when your body needs glucose. So when you're starving, you cannot eat yet, your body needs glucose, your blood sugar. So glucagon will initiate glycogen breakdown. Meanwhile, if you have excess glucose, nag-unli-rice ka sa rib shack, mang inasal, so insulin will say excess glucose, liver should store it as glycogen. Now, by definition, redox reactions are combination of two half reactions. So oxidation is the loss of electrons and reduction is the gain of electrons. And you will see that the electron representation in equations is found the product, and that's for oxidation, and for reduction you will see it in the reactant. So in biochemistry terms, as mentioned earlier, we don't focus on the number of oxygen, but rather the number of hydrogens. So if the number of hydrogens decrease, meaning to say that half reaction is oxidation. But if the number of hydrogens increase, so that is reduction. So the substance being oxidized is considered the reductant, and the substance being reduced is called oxidant. Other words, the substances that are reductants are technically antioxidants. So take note, oxidation of nutrients provide energy for an organism cannot take place without reduction of some electron excitor. In other words, where there is oxidation, there should also be reduction. So one cannot happen without, or one cannot occur without the other. So this is just an example of redox reaction where supposing you have a solution, silver nitrate with silver ions, and you dip a copper wire, what happens here is that copper, the copper wire will form deposits, or there will be formation of copper deposits, copper 2 ions, and rather copper 2 ions dissolve in the silver nitrate solution. So the white precipitate is actually the silver from your silver nitrate solution. So copper here, copper wire is oxidized, silver is reduced, silver nitrate solution is reduced. Another example for redox would be what you saw in the video I asked you to watch, so episode of Cells at Work, wherein it shows the processes involved in trying to convert alcohol into safer form of acetic acid or acetate for the body to be able to carry it throughout the bloodstream. So initially you have ethanol, and then this ethanol alcohol said to be toxic to your RBC, red blood cell. You need an enzyme to convert ethanol into aldehyde, and that is your alcohol dehydrogenase, in which you notice the number of hydrogens decrease because of the formation of double bond. And then, since acetaldehyde is toxic to the liver and your blood cells, they should be further dehydrogenated. And by the enzyme aldehyde dehydrogenase, so you will form from acetaldehyde to acetic acid. And this acetic acid will then be carried out through your bloodstream, so that your body can eliminate it as waste product. Okay, so this is just an exercise. Now, another way to look at catabolism and anabolism. So, We look at the arrow. So catabolism starts with the food that we eat, carbs, lipids, proteins, and they're being digested and metabolized so that we'll be able to get the nutrients and eliminate the low energy end products. So we have carbon dioxide, excess water, and ammonia. Now, catabolism requires your coenzymes. So, for instance, we have here adenosine diphosphate and HPO4 ion. So, this is um, biphosphate ion. And then your coenzyme NAD. Sometimes you have NADP. And these are required so that you can produce ATP and ADH and NADPH. And these three, ATP, NADH, and ADPH, is required for anabolism because once after catabolism, so you have your basic units, so monosaccharides, your free fatty acids, your nitrogenous bases from your proteins and amino acids, and the body needs them for the cell. So with the use of energy, so you're able to synthesize proteins, polysaccharides, lipids, and nucleic acids. So they are simply complementing each other. So from food molecules, catabolic pathways convert them to useful forms of energy, and then anabolic pathways use this energy to synthesize the molecules that form the cell. So here it is shown. So catabolism is all about energy storage. Meanwhile, anabolism is energy usage or energy utilization. So both requires the presence of your ATP and ADP. So in other words, catabolism is destructive metabolism, while anabolism is constructive metabolism, wherein there is an emphasis on biosynthesis reactions. So, for instance, you have a variety of food in your diet. So, looking at the different pathways, there is a specific pathway for each. And here, the dark blue green arrow shows catabolism, and then the light green arrow shows anabolism. So, if you notice, majority or there's a large percentage of catabolic reaction when we begin the cycle with food consumption because that's where biochemistry happens. So the moment you exist, the moment you consume food, and then you have the variety of biomolecules, so they have different paths to follow. So for proteins, so we have protein metabolism, which is catabolic reaction or catabolic reaction would proceed to getting the amino acids and then producing energy production. And in some instances, when the body starves, so amino acids can form the proteins, and these proteins can respond to that starvation by cannibalization of muscle tissue. This is relevant for bodybuilders. So that process is called muscle atrophy. For carbohydrates, So starting with complex carbohydrates, so the aim is to get glucose, and if there's excess, so glucose will be stored as glycogen in liver and skeletal muscle and reserved for later use. And from glucose, so you're able to obtain energy. For fats, so triglycerides, you are able to break down that into glycerol and fatty acids to get energy. And then if you have glycerol and fatty acids present in the body and the body starves, again, starvation, so your lipid will then break down stored fat so that you will get glycerol and fatty acids. So that occurs in weight loss. Energy production, so in the form of ADP or ATP. So basically your second and third phosphate groups will release the energy. What are the different hormones that regulate metabolism? So catabolic hormones include, we have cortisol, your stress hormone. Then they are released from the adrenal gland, so in response to stress. So main role is increased blood glucose by gluconeogenesis. So that is breaking down fats and proteins in order to get glucose. So later in carbohydrate metabolism, we'll see the difference between uh, getting glucose from carbohydrate precursor versus from non-carbohydrate or non-sugar precursor. Glucagon, they are released from the pancreas and they stimulate breakdown of glycogen in the liver. So both aims to increase blood glucose. But the difference lang, cortisol, iyahang source will be fats and proteins. But for glucagon, the source is glycogen from the liver. Another would be thyroxine. So this hormone is regulator of cell growth and metabolic rate, also known as thyroid hormone. And then adrenaline or epinephrine. So this is released in response to activation of sympathetic nervous system. So it increases heart rate, constricts blood vessels, then stimulates also gluconeogenesis. So paresthesia ni cortisol. Then we have anabolic hormones. So the first is growth hormone. So they stimulate growth of cells, tissues, and bones. And that would mean they would have to resort to your amino acids, free fatty acids, monosaccharides in order to synthesize the proteins, carbs, and lipids needed for growth. Now we have insulin-like growth factor or IGF. So it stimulates the growth of muscle and bone while inhibiting, meaning to say they slow down cell death because cells will have to die because they are not immortals. Okay? Cells die at the same time your body is able to regenerate them. Then anabolic hormone pares ni glucagon, you have insulin. So it controls your blood glucose levels and promotes uptake of glucose in body cells. And you have your hormones crucially involved in puberty. So your sex hormones, particularly testosterone and estrogen or estradiol. So for testosterone, actually these two are present in both males and females. Then the only thing is one is predominant in the other. So testosterone stimulates increase in muscle mass and strength. That is why for males, biologically male, so you're expected to have more muscle mass compared to females because females have predominant estrogen, and then estrogen is more on anabolic function, particularly increasing metabolism and fat deposition. So females need fat because of their purpose, such as potential in um, giving birth or potential in development for, say, motherhood functions. Compared to males, so requirements for males usually they need strength because of their roles in society. So we also associate those roles with the functions of males and females respectively. Okay, so this diagram sums up. So we have here, so carbohydrates, your monosaccharides, they enter glycolysis, and then they will have to go into different forms to get acetyl coenzyme A or to produce acetyl coenzyme A before it enters the citric acid cycle. And this junction here, if you notice, is common among lipids, carbohydrates, and proteins. Then all are leading to the citric acid or Krebs cycle. And the end product of citric acid cycle proceeding to the electron transport chain would be your adenosine triphosphate, which is energy. And on the other hand, for protein metabolism, this is where you can see the elimination of nitrogen in the form of urea. Okay, so that sums up introduction to metabolism.